Hey everyone, Nigel and Luke here, and welcome to Crime Zone.
Authorities in Waukesha County, Wisconsin say that they're on the hunt for an unknown suspect this week after he recently tried and failed to rob a local jewelry store with nothing but a brick, a crime that has been jokingly referred to as all smash and no grab. According to reports, the incident took place at around 1 p.m. on June 1st when the male suspect pulled up to a K Jewelers in the village of Menominee Falls, roughly 15 miles outside of Milwaukee. After entering the store, the man walked over to one of the nearest displays before he pulled a brick out of his pocket and, without a word, proceeded to throw it at the top glass of the display case. We know this because the entire thing was captured on the store's video surveillance system. Unfortunately for the suspect, the display case proved far more resilient than he likely anticipated, with its glass merely cracking rather than shattering. Despite this, he continued to hurl the brick at the same spot on the display case, seemingly undeterred by his slow progress. Finally, on the 9th time that the suspect launched the brick, the glass shattered, falling into the display case while only creating a small opening. However, before the suspect could either retrieve his brick or any valuables from the jewelry case, an employee from the store had already sprung into action. They could be seen running towards the business's front doors, grabbing a metal pool on the way, presumably with the intention of either heading the suspect off or locking him inside. Unfortunately, the suspect noticed this and ran for it, managing to escape in his vehicle before he could be caught by the employee. Although the suspect failed miserably at his robbery attempt, given the destruction he caused and the brazenness of the crime, police are nonetheless eager to find him. Local authorities have released a description of the man and his vehicle in the hopes that a member of the public will be able to identify him. The suspect is described as medium skin tone, approximately 5'7" to 6 feet tall, medium build, with tattoos on his right arm and forearm. The car he was driving at the time of the crime was a 2013 to 2015 tan Chevy Malibu without license plates. Anyone with information about the suspect is encouraged to contact the Menominee Falls Police Department or Waukesha County Crime Stoppers.
Authorities in Kern County, California say that they are investigating a massive armored car heist this week after dozens of bags filled with gold, jewelry, and other valuables were stolen while the vehicle was parked at a rest stop during transport. According to reports, the incident began late on the night of July 10th, when exhibits from the International Gem and Jewelry Show were packed into a Brinks security truck in the city of San Mateo. The trade show had been held in the city from the 8th to the 10th, and now its exhibits needed to be transported to the show's next location at the Pasadena Convention Center, which was scheduled to run from the 15th to the 17th. According to most sources we came across, the night's journey began normally. The Brinks truck was loaded with dozens of plastic containers, each of which contained anywhere from 70 to 100 pounds of gold, jewelry, gems, and other valuables, such as designer watches. The trip was about 400 miles, meaning that the exhibits were scheduled to arrive in Pasadena somewhere early the next morning. It appears that things were more or less uneventful until the two Brinks guards transporting the valuables stopped off at a Flying J travel center in the city of Lubbock. The truck stop is located just off of Interstate 5 and was only about an hour away from the exhibit's intended destination. However, it was here, around 2 in the morning, that the two Brinks guards would allegedly make the fateful decision to leave their truck unattended for 27 minutes. Though very little about what happened during this critical window of time has currently been released to the public, we know that at some point, the Brinks truck's locking mechanism was bypassed, giving what authorities believe was likely a group of suspects access to the armored vehicle's tractor-trailer. Once inside, the suspects allegedly managed to get away with between 25 to 30 of the plastic containers that were on board. As for the value of what was stolen, this has become a hotly debated topic over the past few days. While the owners of the exhibits and representatives from the International Gem and Jewelry Show estimate the losses to be over $100 million, representatives from Brinks say that the figure is actually under $10 million. This discrepancy seems to be largely based on what the valuables were insured for during transportation. Many of the exhibits' owners have been described as, quote, mom-and-pop operators, who typically underinsure their valuables because they cannot afford the costs and fees associated with insuring them completely with a company like Brinks. The security company meanwhile stated, quote, "We will fully reimburse our customers for the value of their assets that were stolen in accordance with the terms of our contract." Given the huge difference in what the valuables were allegedly worth versus what they were insured for, reports state that several of the small operators that were victimized by the heists have thus been completely financially wiped out by the crime and have lost their entire livelihoods. As for where authorities are in their investigation, currently very little has been released. Detectives say that there was a strong possibility that the armored car was followed from its destination before being targeted, since the exact routes that these vehicles travel are kept a secret, and it would not have been obvious from the outside what kind of valuables it contained. The locking mechanism that the thieves bypassed in order to pull off the heist was also described by investigators as, quote, "exceedingly difficult to crack." At the time of this recording, however, it's unclear what leads authorities have in the case. The situation is still developing.
Authorities in the tropical island nation of Fiji say that a 38-year-old Tennessee man has been arrested and is facing charges this week after he was accused of murdering his new wife while on their honeymoon at a luxury resort. According to reports, the incident began on July 7th when Christy Chen Dawson and her husband Bradley Robert Dawson arrived at the Turtle Island Resort. The couple were on a delayed honeymoon after marrying in February of this year. Friends and family described the relationship as a, quote, whirlwind romance, with many of Christy's friends not even meeting Bradley until their wedding. The Turtle Island Resort is located on a private island and is known for only taking a handful of couples at a time. In the past, the resort has been known as a hotspot for celebrities and was also the setting of the 1980 Brooke Shields movie, The Blue Lagoon. Christy and Bradley's accommodation reportedly cost $3,500 a night. Though nothing of interest has been reported about the first bit of the couple's trip, things took a dark turn on July 9th, when Christy and Bradley's private butler at the resort began to grow concerned about them. Neither of them showed up for breakfast or lunch that day, prompting the employee to enter their room with a spare key sometime that afternoon. Upon entering, the employee found Christy's lifeless body in the bathroom. She had allegedly been beaten to death. Her husband was nowhere to be found. According to reports, Bradley Dawson was finally tracked down the following day on another island more than a mile away from the Turtle Island Resort. At the time, he was allegedly intoxicated, covered in bruises and cuts to his hands and feet, and told several people that he needed to speak to the police. He was arrested and subsequently charged with Christie's murder. Though several details are now disputed in the case, several reports we came across now allege that sometime early on the morning of July 9th, Bradley got into a heated dispute with his new wife and killed her. He then fled the scene in a kayak, paddling to the island where he was eventually found. While Bradley himself has not given any statements to the press at this time, his defense attorney has challenged this version of events. He says that while Bradley has admitted to arguing with his wife, he claims that her death was an accident and that the 38-year-old fled the scene in a panic because he didn't know what else to do. At the time of this recording, Bradley Dawson remains in police custody. The situation is still developing.
Authorities in Jackson County, West Virginia, say that they are investigating a case that is full of twists and turns this week after a woman who was in a coma for 2 years identified her brother as her attacker, only for him to die several days later. According to reports, the incident began back on the morning of June 10, 2020, when 51-year-old Wanda Palmer was found in a horrific state in her trailer in Jackson County. She had been the victim of a brutal attack, believed to have been carried out with some sort of axe or machete, and though she was breathing shallowly at the time she was found, was basically on the verge of death. After being rushed to the hospital, Wanda slipped into a coma. She was transferred to a long-term care facility in New Martinsville, where experts weren't sure if she would ever wake up again. In the meantime, investigators hit more or less a dead end in her case. Though her brother, 55-year-old Daniel Palmer III, was seen by a witness standing on the porch of Wanda's home the night before she was found, there wasn't enough evidence linking him to the case. Then, on June 27th, more than 2 years after the brutal crime, a deputy in Jackson County received a call from the long-term care center where Wanda had been transferred. Amazingly, she had awoken from her coma. While Wanda was still seriously injured from the attack, she was able to speak with investigators, identifying her brother Daniel as the culprit. Daniel was arrested on July 15th for attempted murder and malicious wounding of his sister. Though this was certainly a turn in the case that no one had expected, things got even more surprising less than a week later, when police reported that Daniel had died while in custody. At the time of this recording, much of the circumstances surrounding the 55-year-old's death are a mystery, though several sources have stated that he was extremely uncooperative following his arrest, allegedly doing things like making it impossible for officers to take a new mugshot of him and refusing to sign the paperwork allowing for an attorney to represent him. There are also unconfirmed reports, however, that he may have been suffering from an undisclosed medical condition at the time. Currently, the situation is still developing.
Authorities in New Haven County, Connecticut say that a 25-year-old man has been arrested on multiple charges this week after a perceived slight over what he considered a polite act allegedly caused him to go into a full-blown rage. According to reports, the incident took place at around 3:15 p.m. on July 16th outside a Family Dollar store in the town of Hamden. It began when a 25-year-old man, later identified as Joshua Murray, held the business's door open for two women who were entering at the same time. Apparently, when the two women didn't say thank you to Murray, he thought it was rude, causing an argument to start between them. At some point, things reportedly escalated significantly when Murray whipped out a handgun to let everyone know just how upset he was about the whole thing. The police were called, and Murray ran off. Unfortunately for the 25-year-old, he apparently didn't make it very far before authorities caught up. Officers found him on a nearby street, still in possession of the gun, after which he was placed under arrest. According to reports, Murray has now been charged with carrying a pistol without a permit, 2 counts of second-degree breach of peace, and interfering with a police officer. He is currently being held in lieu of $25,000 bail.
Authorities in Spartanburg County, South Carolina say that they are investigating an unusual theft case this week after a local 62-year-old man called to report that he was missing more than $500,000 worth of products from his Pokémon trading card collection. According to reports, the incident began on the morning of July 13th when the 62-year-old man, identified as a local insurance broker named Christopher Polidoro, contacted police to report that his cards were missing. In particular, he said he was missing 3 unopened boxes of cards, each of which contained packs that were more than 20 years old. The 62-year-old stated that he kept his cards in a special collectibles room in his 6,800 square foot waterfront home. The room is reportedly temperature and humidity controlled and also houses his baseball, football, and basketball card collections. Despite both the alleged value of his collection and the care that Polidoro had put into making his dedicated room of collectibles, apparently the stolen cards were not insured. The man also didn't seem to have a clear idea of when the Pokémon cards were stolen, stating that the last people to be in the special room unsupervised were a team of HVAC workers who had been there 9 months ago. Polidoro reportedly arrived at the value for his stolen cards based on recent auction sales for similar products that netted sellers 6 figures. While it's unclear if police currently have any leads in the investigation, I just wanted to point out a couple of things that stood out to me as weird in reports about the case. As some of you may know from previous videos we've done about collectibles, I collected Pokemon cards when I was a kid, and I still know a couple of things about them. For starters, in the reports, it states that Polidoro's missing boxes contained 24 packs of cards each. This is bizarre, because English booster boxes contain 36 packs, and as far as I know, 24 was not the standard for Japanese products at the time either. Additionally, reports make reference to so-called Japanese first edition cards, something that also didn't exist at the time, as first edition stamps were exclusive to products that were printed by the company Wizards of the Coast, who did not print Japanese cards. Perhaps these details are just mistakes in the reporting on the case itself, though, and were not in the actual statements that Polidoro gave to police. Anyways, just thought I'd include that tangent because it was something I noticed in the reports. At the time of this recording, authorities are still looking into the case.
Representatives from the Iowa Division of Criminal Investigation and the state police say that they're investigating the aftermath of a horrific crime that took the lives of 4 people this week, after a 23-year-old man allegedly shot and killed 3 members from the same family before turning the gun on himself. According to reports, the incident began at around 6:30 a.m. on July 22nd, when the bodies of 3 people were found at their campsite at the Makokata Caves State Park, roughly 180 miles east of Des Moines. All 3 victims had been shot. The 3 deceased victims were later identified as married couples Tyler and Sarah Schmidt and their 6-year-old daughter, Lula. Tyler and Sarah's 9-year-old son, Arlo, is said to be the only survivor of the attack. The family of 4 had traveled to the state park from their home in Cedar Falls for a camping trip. When the park was evacuated, it was soon discovered that one person was unaccounted for, 23-year-old Anthony Orlando Sherwin. Sherwin's body was found a short time later following an aerial search. He had died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. According to investigators, Sherwin shot the 3 members of the Schmidt family before turning the gun on himself. At the time of this recording, few additional details are available about the case. It's said that Sherwin had no connection to the Schmidt family, nor is any prior altercation known to have taken place between them before the shooting. Currently, investigators believe that the crime may have been completely random. Reports likewise do not mention how the 9-year-old survivor managed to escape the same fate as his parents and sister. They do state, however, that the boy is safe and now in the custody of extended family members. A GoFundMe page for the 9-year-old has amassed over $200,000 in donations at the time of this recording. Unfortunately, this is more or less all we know about the tragic and unthinkable crime. The situation is still developing.
Authorities in Glacier County, Montana say that 3 people are dead this week, including the assailant, after a 37-year-old man attacked his ex-girlfriend and several members of her family. According to reports, the situation unfolded on the night of July 17th, when 30-year-old Christina Seau was on a walk with several family members who were visiting her from New York. These included her brother, 39-year-old David Seau, his wife Christy, and their 3 children. The family members were walking along a roadway in the small town of East Glacier Park Village when out of nowhere a vehicle came barreling towards them. It was allegedly being driven by Christina's ex-boyfriend, 37-year-old Derek Amos Madden. After hitting some of the family members, Madden reportedly crashed his vehicle into a tree. He then stepped out of the vehicle with a shotgun and began to fire at Christina and her family, who were now running for their lives. Though 2 of the children present at the scene managed to escape physically unharmed, sadly, everyone else was trapped. David was hit with one of the shotgun blasts and killed instantly, after which his 18-month-old daughter Mackenzie was also shot and mortally wounded. Christy was holding her daughter at the time and was also seriously injured. According to reports, when Madden ran out of ammunition, he turned his attention towards his ex Christina, who he began attacking with a knife. Though she was critically injured during this struggle, at some point Christina managed to wrestle the knife away from Madden, after which she fatally stabbed him. When police arrived at the scene, Madden and David were pronounced dead, while Christy, Christina, and Mackenzie were rushed to the hospital. Tragically, Mackenzie would die sometime after her arrival there. Though there is little doubt as to how the horrific situation unfolded, the why behind the crime is less clear. While there were reports that Madden suffered from several mental health issues as well as a brain injury, no motive has been officially established for why he went after Christina and her family. Apparently, the couple had been broken up for quite a while before the attack, though they had been involved in an on-again, off-again relationship for roughly 10 years. At the time of this recording, the situation is still developing. That's it for this edition of Crimes of the Week. If you enjoyed our video, don't forget to like and subscribe to Crime Zone for more true crime content like this, making sure to hit the notification bell to stay up to date with our latest releases. Thank you for watching.